on to the other big story that we've been focusing on, and that is India's air emergency. This is no longer Delhi's air emergency. It's largely concentrated in the national capital. But if you look at cities across northern India, it is difficult today to breathe. You're basically breathing in toxic air and killing yourself slowly. If you look at, for instance, the pollution levels in Delhi today, PM 2.5, which is the most dangerous particulate pollutant that is out there, that actually goes into your bloodstream and deep into your lungs. That PM 2.5 level hit 449 in Delhi today. That is the highest that it has hit in Delhi this entire year. That means that PM 2.5 levels are actually 15 times higher than the safe limit, which, by the way, is 30. 30 is the safe limit. 449 is what it was in Delhi today. And by the way, Delhi was marginally better pollution-wise compared to yesterday, where pretty much everyone woke up smelling that acid in the air with pollution levels even higher. What doctors say is that this amounts to smoking 12 cigarettes in a day. That's what we're all effectively doing, whether we smoke or not. Now, if you look at various cities across North India today and what their pollution levels were, looking at the AQI levels, most of them are 10 to 13 times above the safe limit that the WHO, the World Health Organization, has prescribed. So if you go through those cities on the graphic there, you have Faridabad, that was at 389 today, Noida at 379, Agra at 374, Ghaziabad at 372, Lucknow at 310, all of them way above the safe limits that have been prescribed by the World Health Organization. So what are authorities saying about the forecast then over the next few days? Because we are going to see Diwali tomorrow, there's going to be the firecracker factor. We have to see whether people are going to follow the Supreme Court's orders, whether those are going to be implemented, and we actually do not see firecrackers being burnt, and if any, only green crackers. What the government's agencies say is that the AQI levels, the pollution levels, could actually hit their highest on Diwali at 575. This is what they have predicted. This is Safar, okay? Scenario one is that if there are no firecrackers or fewer firecrackers, then the Delhi's AQI will hit 378. So that's at very poor. But even if 50% of firecrackers are burst, 50% of last year's, then the AQI is going to hit 575. So that is something to think about on the eve of Diwali. And in all of this, the question we're asking really today is, why haven't political authorities woken up to this emergency? We have seen chief ministers squabbling, we have seen states squabbling, we have seen ministers from various states not attending a meeting called by the Delhi Environment Ministers, except for the Delhi Environment Minister. The Prime Minister's office is silent. It has not said a word on Delhi's pollution crisis or North India's pollution crisis, and hasn't even decided to call a meeting on this. Joining us on NDTV this evening, we have Akshay Marathe, the spokesperson of AAP. We have China NC of the BJP joining us from Mumbai. Gopal Shankar Narayanan, who's an advocate with the Supreme Court and has petitioned the Supreme Court on this issue. Vimlendhu Jha is an environmentalist, and Bhavreen Khandari is a parent and member of the My Right to Breathe group. And I'm going to begin with her actually, because a bunch of you guys, parents today, actually went to the Environment Ministry and submitted a memorandum literally pleading with them to do something. Clearly you feel that despite your campaigns last year and the kind of awareness you tried to create, it's not had an impact with those who matter.
Absolutely, Nidhi. What you said, pleading, is absolutely correct word, because last couple of years, the same pattern we are following. We go, we protest, and we say our words. We tell them the same things we're discussing, the PM 2.5 or all those factors, but nothing seems to work. Now, it's literally a desperate stage that we have come here, and we have, now formulated a whole petition, which it's not that they don't know. They know, everything is known, but it's not executed. For example,
and your primary appeal seems to be, it's time to rise above politics and save lives. This is a health emergency.
Absolutely, it is a health emergency, but they don't seem to be understanding, because if they did, then the Minister of Environment would have been there. He would have cut short his other important inaugurations or whatever, because this is a health emergency. Or Mr. Sisodia would be welcoming them. Yeah, please come talk to us. It is, see, we are not considering air that important even now. We are talking of food, we are talking of water, but we don't realize we are inhaling 12,000 liters of air every day, which is about 13, 14, 15 kilos, and that's the kind of amount that we're not even consuming in food per person. It's so important. Our children who are teenagers now, I have twin girls, 14-year-old girls, they have lungs of a smoker. I mean, it's a horrible feeling. As a mother, it's terribly, disheartening and very, very, exasperating. Exactly. So, what are we doing? We want to give best to our children. And what about the other children, the less privileged children? They're not even driving cars. They're not even use the flyovers. Don't even use the multi-level parkings. And this is what we are giving them. I mean, in that, I take myself as a partner in crime. So we are not really.
I'm looking at your petition, and some of the things that you all as parents and environmentalists have said, and Gopal Shankar Narayanan, I'll take this to you, is that despite all this talk that we keep having about this issue, at least in the media, etc., there is no concrete target that has been set by any government that, look, we need to have this target by which to reduce emissions, etc., the way China did it. And I'm going to talk about the China model in some time. But are you disappointed that when we are seeing this kind of political blame game, that the Prime Minister's office has not stepped in? I mean, he is breathing the same air. Does this not, you think, warrant an intervention from the very top?
Absolutely, Nidhi. I think I've said this before on your channel as well. We have spent a considerable amount of time raising questions with the Punjab Chief Minister about crop burning, with the Delhi Chief Minister about the steps they could have taken. But the fundamental issue at the end of the day is that of the central government. And in the present dispensation, we have seen it being centralized to one office and one office alone, that of the PM. So we have a situation where there is overwhelming evidence that PM 2.5 is claiming lives, that air pollution is killing 100,000 children in India every year, that the WHO thinks it's serious enough to have a convention on it last week, which the Indian government does not seek to attend. And we find a continuing and morbid silence. Now, when the government of India is charged with protecting our lives and it does nothing, and it allows deaths to happen, it allows people's lungs to be plagued over a daily basis, it's criminal negligence of the highest order, which goes right to the doorstep, I repeat, of the PM. We talk about PM 2.5, I'm seeing PM 0 sitting there on Racecourse Road.
Strong words from you there, Mr. Shankar Narayanan. Shaina, would you like to take that? That, it's actually appalling to see the blame game, between the Punjab Chief Minister, the Delhi Chief Minister, the Haryana CM. Everyone's pointing fingers at each other. But this is where we need the Prime Minister to step in. We need the PMO to say, look, this is a health emergency. Let's get all these guys together in one room and figure this out. Let's set targets. What's the point of winning UN Environment Awards if our own air is the way that it is?
Please understand, Nidhi, that this is a grave concern for every citizen. I mean, the air the Prime Minister breathes is the same as you or me breathe. And in Delhi particularly, it is a cause of concern. Yes, this is not an overnight problem. This is something that has been persisting for a while now. I think whether it is cloud seeding or trying to suggest artificial rain in collaboration with experts from IIT Kanpur and in collaboration with the meteorological department are all questions which need to be answered at the earliest, but this needs to be translated into a concrete plan. Now, what is the concrete plan as far as the government is concerned?
What about the Prime Minister's intervention, Shaina?
Yes,
my original
climate
question.
Control, global warming are international.
What about the PMO's intervention? My original question.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Does this not warrant an emergency cabinet meeting? For the PM to call an emergency cabinet meeting and say
absolutely.
that, so you do think that the Prime Minister should do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I think that everything need not be announced in the public domain. The actions speak louder than words in every sense. But the fact that you have IIT Kanpur on board, you have the meteorological department on board, you have ISRO which is on board when it comes to cloud seeding. These are all things of how we use technology to the best, how we ensure that people are aware, and most importantly, I'm so glad that this is almost a fire-free, firecracker-free Diwali, where whether it's Mumbai, whether it's Delhi, whether it's all across the country, look at the awareness and the concern of citizens too. So I think we need to work collectively.
Okay,
this blame game won't work. Proactiveness and political will is there.
Why the PM would call a meeting and not announce it, and what good does that do? I think it would reassure a lot of citizens that the Prime Minister is intervening, and I mean, he is after all now recognized as an environmentalist by the United Nations. So let him, take that knowledge and help us breathe cleaner air. Vimlendu, you wanted to make a point.
Yes, so Nidhi, first of all, as in right now when China NC is taking credit for people not blasting firecrackers, just last week on your program, it was representatives of BJP that were actually abusing everyone who asked for ban on firecrackers. Point number one. Point number two, I think it's not just ignorance, it's arrogance that we are talking about. These reports from Kanpur, be it IIT Kanpur report or many other reports, have been there in public domain for almost 3 years. There's a new study that IIT Kanpur is doing right now. It's not the lack of information, it's lack of political will. This morning, when there were people actually protesting in front of Harshvardhan's office, Harshvardhan, our Honorable Minister of Environment and Forest, was tweeting about Sanjeev Kumar. Last week, when people asked him when there was a bad air situation in Delhi, when people asked him about air, he said he's busy with Sardar Patel. Last month, when people asked him about Delhi's air, he said he was busy with Ram Leela. How busy is our environment minister? Not a single statement. Forget about action. When China NC talks about action, there is a document in China NC called National Clean Air Program that's actually been lying with the central government. That's the only document that actually clearly says what's the responsibility of the central government and respective state governments, and that has not been notified for the last 6 months. Look at this, as in 4 lakh vehicles have been deregistered apparently in the name of pollution control. Only 3,000 of them have actually been stopped, have taken away from the roads. Where is the political will? Where is the political action? Right now, the situation that we're talking about, where WHO tells us people are dying, Lancet report tells us people are dying, and not a single word from our Prime Minister, not a single word from Minister of Environment and Forest. What are we? Is it some sort of a joke that you feel these spokespersons who come and tell us that actions speak louder than words and we're doing a lot? Where is it? At the end of the day, action would show result on the ground, and there's no action that we actually see. And last 1 month and last several years, we've actually seen central government and also respective state governments haven't done enough. They leave it on citizens and some breeze coming from north, south, east, west, and that cleans the air, and that's how we survive. No cognizance of public health or the impact that something like this has, and his arrogance not even to meet the protesters today, sitting in his office tweeting about Sholay, when there are hundreds of children protesting and asking for fresh air. Terrible, pathetic and shameful is what I would say.
So wow, so Bhavreen, you actually tried to meet the Environment Minister and you tried to meet Manish Sisodia, didn't you? You couldn't meet either of them. So Akshay, before I take Vimlendu's sharp criticism back to China, can I ask you, what was Manish Sisodia so busy with? I mean, I saw a tweet of one of your colleagues today making that very same point. Is everyone too busy to now even meet parents and kids who want to come and give them solutions, talk to them? People are scared.
Absolutely, and I completely understand this anguish. I would also be very disturbed. I am disturbed as a citizen of Delhi. I am breathing the same air that all of you are breathing. If Mr. Sisodia was not available today, I'm sure they can get an appointment in the next few days. There's no problem about meeting any of the ministers of Delhi government. But let's look at the facts at hand. What our problem is that throughout the year, Delhi has moderate air quality, poor air quality, but suddenly between September and October, something drastically changes. 2 things change, Nidhi. Number one, we have the farms of Haryana and Punjab which catch fire. The farmers are burning their crops.
30% of the problem.
No,
yesterday it was 24% of the problem. So what about the rest of the problem?
If you can let me finish.
Pass the buck. Keep passing the buck. That's what these guys keep doing.
I did not interrupt any of your guests, Nidhi.
No, but that's a familiar
I know,
story.
but it's time that
what is stopping Arvind
it's time
Kejriwal
that
from
we
picking up the phone
it's time that
and
we
meeting both the chief
realize
ministers?
it's time that we realize that whatever the local problems of pollution are, whatever the local sources of pollution are, the Delhi government is doing whatever is in its ability to do. But as soon as you hit October, there is suddenly an influx of pollution coming in from outside the city. There is no denying this fact.
Only 30%.
But that 30% is the most deadly part of the pollution. Why is it that suddenly in the months of October and November,
the official statistics we had was that yesterday the farm fires contributed to about 24% of Delhi's smog. These are the stats that we had.
Event.
Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
These are events, but no, the thing is that these are events, and it's very, very convenient for Aam Aadmi Party to tell us that problem is all from Punjab. Ask this gentleman right now. 4 lakh vehicles you actually re-registered. How many have you actually sent for scrapping? You collected almost 1,500 crores, as Green says. Have you done anything with that? You spent 90 lakhs out of that. Did you not get
permission
to cut 17,000 trees
let
in
him
the last
answer that
3 years?
question. Those are
Tell me
important
yes
points.
or no.
Let him answer that.
I think Mr. Jha may not be aware, but the same tax that he's talking about has already been committed by the Delhi government on spending on electric vehicles. Our transport. Mr. Jha, please be civil. On debate after debate, you do this, interrupt other people. Let me speak and then you can speak for as long as you like. The same tax, the 1700 crore rupees that he's talking about, has been already set aside for buying electric vehicles for Delhi. 1,000 electric vehicles will hit Delhi's roads in the next year or so. Not just that, we are also moving completely from CNG to zero emission public transport. So it's not that we are just doing working on this in a piecemeal approach. We want to shift all of Delhi's public transport to zero emission. Delhi will be the first city in the country to actually do that. But that's not all that we are doing. Whatever we could do to deal with Delhi's local sources. I had mentioned on an earlier show of yours, we did come up with a green budget, which was a 26-point comprehensive plan to tackle Delhi's local sources. In that, it included a very progressive solar policy, where we said that all residential societies. No. I'm not. That's not true. That's not true.
What has the Delhi government done
several Delhi colonies.
Last October and this October to change things?
Several of Delhi's colonies have already shifted from thermal energy to solar energy, that is cutting down Delhi's thermal emissions. But again, whatever we do is not going to be enough, because the major problem that happens in October and November is coming from outside the city. It's high time we acknowledge this. Otherwise, you'll keep holding Arvind Kejriwal accountable for something that is actually coming from Punjab and Haryana.
Nidhi, I just want to say something here.
Gopal, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, with reference to this electric buses story that they are churning out, I appeared in the Delhi High Court and specifically got a direction from the Delhi High Court saying that their next tranche of buses that they're going to get are electric buses. They appealed this to the Supreme Court, got it modified so it would be CNG buses again, floated tenders, and are now getting CNG buses. God knows when they're going to get these electric buses.
That's because there was already a set of CNG buses that was coming Delhi's way. Are you asking us to stop procuring any other buses but electric buses? What about the earlier orders that we have placed?
Preserving the environment? What happened to your civility?
Okay, let him finish. Let Gopal Shankar Narayan finish. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to complete. As far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, he stated just now that they have taken many measures of over the last 1 year in the non-crop burning season. I want to know one measure which they have taken which has not been by a direction of the court. One measure.
Okay. So if you had allowed me to complete, I was just stating that we have a very progressive solar policy which has already kicked off. It's not only on paper. Several colonies, my goodness, am I on Mirror Now or Times Now? What is this?
So civilized compared to them, but anyway.
I know, but it's still, I mean, anyway.
No. He asked you name one
and allow me 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
One thing you've done that hasn't been court ordered.
Yeah. So in our 26-point budget, green budget plan, the most important policy was the solar policy. Many colonies of Delhi, including those in Indraprasth, in Dwarka, and Rohini, have already shifted from thermal power to solar power. And that has not been court ordered, that has been an Aam Aadmi Party government initiative. So if only people do follow what Aam Aadmi Party has been doing, we have done a lot for dealing with local sources of pollution.
The farm fires are, according to AAP, the biggest problem between October and December. Why isn't Arvind Kejriwal picking up the phone and reaching out to the chief ministers of Haryana and Punjab? Has he done that? Has he called them?
You know what happened last year? When the last year
I'm
Mr.
asking about this
Kejriwal
year.
was trying to meet Captain Amrinder Singh,
I
Captain
agree
Amrinder
with
Singh
you.
refused to meet with him.
I agree with you.
In the last year itself,
Has he tried this year?
In
Has
the
he
last
tried
year,
this year?
okay, allow me to answer now. In the last year itself, the Environment Minister of Delhi has sent letter after letter after letter to the Environment Ministers of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and the Environment Minister of the Union Government. None of these letters have been responded with. We have got no responses from them. In fact, like you said earlier, the central government had called for a meeting between the environment ministers of all these states and Delhi, where only Delhi's environment minister turned up.
So, Shaina, can I turn to you? And what Vimlendu Jha called the arrogance of the government, that the environment minister, the centre's environment minister is, busy tweeting about something else and doesn't have time to meet parents and children who've come to meet him outside his ministry today. I again ask you, what has stopped the Prime Minister, who, holds forth on everything under the sun, from addressing this? There's not been a single comment on air pollution. This is something that's making front page news all over the world. Does there not deserve to be a single comment even from the PM on this?
Firstly, this issue is being handled by the Union Minister Harshvardhan ji, who has gone on record with not just one statement but multiple, some of which I would like to quote, where it is clear that the centre has given financial aid of over 550 crores for farmers who are indulging in stubble burning, as satellite images by NASA on Monday showed that large number of farm fires in Ludhiana, Jalandhar, Sirsa and other places of Punjab and Haryana. The aggressive campaign is also followed with a clean air campaign from November 1st to 10th that has been launched by our government to monitor the report polluting activities and to ensure quick action.
But
we
I'm
request
asking,
people's participation.
we still can't
now,
breathe.
I think this
we can't
is something
breathe.
that needs to be
China
highlighted
NC,
too.
we cannot breathe here in Delhi. We cannot breathe. This. I'm saying it requires an urgent meeting of all chief ministers of all the affected states. Why can't the PM's office convene that? Why can't the Prime Minister chair that? Why can't the Prime Minister even tweet something? I mean,
but
say
what makes
something.
you think there is no coordination? There is.
Really?
What makes you think that the Pollution Control Board, the IIT experts,
I'm
the
asking about the Prime Minister of India.
The representatives
China, I'm asking
from NASA,
about the Prime Minister
the
of India.
representatives from
Does this not deserve a multi-state meeting? Does this not deserve a meeting of chief
ministers? You only want a
ministers?
reaction and response from the Prime Minister. He chooses not to speak, he chooses to act. Is that an answer which is good enough?
Where is the
Because
action?
every debate
Where
we
is
are
the action?
on, there is only a question: why is the Prime Minister not speaking? Why should he speak when Mr. Harshvardhan has spoken on behalf of the Union Government and has spoken on behalf of the centre and has announced these packages and the processes which are in place? When you have IIT
so let me ask a parent sitting right next to me. Maureen, are you happy that Harshvardhan is giving statements and not Mr. Modi?
You have the minister.
I have a parent sitting here with me. I have a parent sitting here with me, Shaina.
As a parent, as a citizen, we are sick and tired of this blame game. Now see, he actually very clearly said that they've tried to approach the other chief ministers of these states and they're not, obviously cooperating. Yeah. Now, if the Prime Minister does not intervene, the same situation year after year, this is the third year I know in row since my right to breathe, third year, and the same things we are hearing, the same things are happening. So the war will continue. And what they did, they are not saying. All of them in the past 6 months before, you've seen all the trees that have been cut. That was the natural savior that we had, that we have.
Yeah.
And we instead of saving that, instead of being so thankful and grateful to what we have, we are destroying that and then bringing in these purifiers and whatnot, those Vayu,
and you're saying ultimately, unless the centre intervenes, you're not going to see
any
political resolution to this.
Not.
Which is true. Vimlendu, the quick last question, which is that, we often look at how China dealt with its air pollution problem, and part of the reason was that the government stepped in a big way. It set targets, it really clamped down and it acted on that. Is that possible at all to do here? I mean, given what's happening right now, we can't get more buses on the road, we can't get our public transport in place. Can we ever hope to do what China did in the next 5 years?
Nidhi, exactly that is what today's protest was about. That is exactly what what every environmentalist in this country, every civil society in this country is asking, which China is not answering or Harshvardhan is not answering, is that very China-like there's a document called National Clean Air Program that needs to be notified. That's the only document that clearly says, sets the target, sets the timeline, and tells us what do we need to do and by when and by who. The problem is the Prime Minister's office bought 24 air purifiers. All these ministers have bought air purifiers. They all live in Lutyens, Delhi with 50 air purifiers in their houses. They do not understand that what the situation is. In last week, every ICU of Delhi was running out of beds. Do they understand how big the situation is? And for China NC to say, oh, well, why should Prime Minister speak? Are Baba, Prime Minister, if does not speak on 15 lakh people dying every year, what else should he be speaking about then? What is he the head of the government for? What is he the custodian of our country for if 15 lakh children dying every year does not bother him? Shameful.
Gopal Shankarayan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the big difference between China and India is the number of lobbies we have which are ensuring that we don't move towards clean air. When it comes to fuel, every single drop of Indian fuel is refined, Euro 6 is created and then exported abroad by two of the biggest companies we have on our soil. We don't bring electric vehicles into the country because we have a 150% import duty on it. Why? Because the Indian auto industry will not permit them to come in. At every stage you will find that there are big money bags which are responsible for us not moving towards a cleaner future. We have a EPCA which has been set up for the specific purpose of cleaning up our air, but it's either too rusted and is not imaginative enough to come up with solutions which can be implemented on the ground. But the status quo still have to continue for reasons best known to the people in power.
Well, you know what?
So for us, the big issue is that we have these huge lobbies.
That's actually a very significant point that you raised. I was just saying that because we are now heading into Diwali tomorrow, we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping against hope that the number of crackers that are burst, if people are still violating the Supreme Court's orders, are actually far less. And day after tomorrow, I just want to tell you that we are going to do a show which is going to look at a reality check of how those Supreme Court orders worked on the ground and what the pollution levels are going to be like from tomorrow night. So we're going to focus on that with parents, with kids, with environmentalists. That's on Thursday. So thank you to all of you for coming in today. I wish you all a happy, safe and a healthy Diwali most of all. We'll see you all again on Thursday. Good night.